I'm Amy.
I'm Wendell.
And I'm Patrick.
And
this is
Yes,
But Why?
Podcast.
He came up one time, I think he had like a dog shampoo thing. And I was like, what is that? Like, why? Oh, it was a dog toothbrush. And I feel like he went downstairs and he got it. And when he came up, he showed it to me. He wasn't brushing his teeth at the time, but I can't imagine him not having brushed his teeth with it. So now I have like that, I can't imagine him having picked up it's like this crazy triangular, like, toothbrush thing. Mm-hmm. Like, for him to not have just been like, ooh, this is a toothbrush. What does it feel like?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but dogs are, dealing with dog stuff, other than the poop part, I feel like, dogs are, like, cleaner than humans.
Yeah. Dogs at least don't want to poop in their bed.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have 2 cats, and they're like, you never know. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no like, well, that makes sense, or surely this is what he's trying to tell me by peeing on the floor. It's just like, hey, by the way, I saw there was this container, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to pee in it. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Super funny. So, how old is Jace now?
He is 5.
5. Wow. Yep. So the last time I saw you was New Year's, right? When you came here?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that was many years ago, wasn't it? That was like, must have been at least 6, because you didn't have a baby.
Yeah. Did we even did we still live in New York?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you guys took a trip here.
That must be at least 9 years ago.
Oh, I don't know if you lived in New York versus New Jersey versus wherever you live right now. Do you live in New Jersey or do you live in Pennsylvania?
I live in Pennsylvania.
Ah. Yeah, I believe you guys lived in New Jersey because, like, right after you got married, you moved into your New Jersey place, right? Didn't you?
No, we moved into New York. We moved in. Chris moved from New Jersey to New York.
Oh.
I've only ever lived in New York and here.
Oh. Oh, so you never had an interim New Jersey home?
Nope.
Oh, interesting.
Chris had his own place.
Right.
Before he moved in with me.
Right. Huh.
Yeah.
So now you live in Pennsylvania. Where in Pennsylvania?
Bethlehem.
Oh, yes. Which is why you know the SteelStacks and the Man Dude Bro guys. That's
right. Who are all very lovely.
I think it's so hilarious. What a, like, funny connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got connected to them through one of my husband's coworkers. Like, my husband goes and does conventions everywhere. And this guy that he works with, Jer, knew about Man Dude Bro. He had seen their shows, and so when he met me and I told him what I was doing, he was like, oh, you should meet these guys. They do a great show. And I'm the kind of person who goes, okay, and then goes on the internet and finds them and contacts them.
Yeah.
Other people just go, oh, cool, and then never hear about them again. But I was like, all right, you're right, I should contact them, and I will. Yeah, they were nice. I talked to 2 out of 4 of them about, improv and stuff down there. So I find it interesting. I think a lot of us who had our, like, 20s in the art stars have found our way to improv, which is an interesting like pathway between, like, Irene, who's, like, killing it up in New York, doing all sorts of stuff at her theater, and then I hear you're doing it in Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh, right? Philly, right. Right. Sorry, there's 2 major improv hubs up in the old Pennsylvania area, and I know a bunch of people from both. So
Yep.
I like that state has 2 major cities doing it, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
Dallas, like in Texas, Austin has 5 theaters, whereas Dallas has 1 and Houston has 1. So it's, like, not really quite as booming in the other cities. But, like, Pittsburgh versus Philly, like, what's the scene in Philly? How many theaters are there? Are they all improv? Are they, like, different kinds of stuff? What's the crowd like?
And Philly is different than, Philly is different than Bethlehem, because that's the SteelStacks and the thing, but,
Totally. That's a whole nother subset of the, now is Bethlehem considered a subset of Philly, or a subset of Pittsburgh, or a subset of New York?
Neither.
None? Okay. Because I know that all of those guys went to UCB, so it was like, okay, there's not exactly, other than what they do, there's not exactly a school where they could have gone. They went to UCB, learned it, and then brought it to the area.
Yeah. Philly is, New York from here is like 2 hours, but Philly from here is like an hour and a half, a little bit less. So it's not as bad. And then Pittsburgh is like 5 hours away.
Yeah. Pennsylvania's a big state.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, like, we're like, in Philly, okay, getting back to your question. in Philly, I get the sense that there's more stand-up places, and the improv places are like only a few, or there's comedy places that have improv in it, but it's not the major part of it. And where I'm involved is Philly Improv Theater, which is obviously a improv theater, and I feel like it's growing there. And it's weird because the feeling of like, I still don't know that I fully grasp the stand-up only places, because I just when we performed in New York, it was everything. It was I never went to the open mics that had categories as a thing. It was just whatever you did was it.
Yeah, the famous people, the people that are going to be creating the narrative of what is happening, what happened in the comedy scene in the early 2000s, call the rooms that we hung out in the alt rooms.
Oh.
Yeah, they refer to that kind of stuff as alt. That's that, and there were a few stand-up rooms in the area, and that's what a lot of them will refer to them as. Because, like, I listened to, one of the reasons why I wanted to do a podcast about, like, people who do improv and sketch and stand-up, like, all across the country, is that, like, all the famous people, they talk about it and they have their story, but their story is very, like, if 6 of them were all famous together and now, or we're all coming up together and now they're all famous, their story is just what they consider the story. And I really don't think that's the case. I think there's like hundreds of thousands of amazing tiny little stories of people creating theaters all over the place. And like, I think each and every story should be told. Like, I think it's just important for each group to be able to have their story out there. And then sometimes they're born of different things, like, different, like right now, and I won't go into much detail because I'm trying not to say too much about it on the podcast, but right now the theater that I pretty much came up in Austin is defunct, like had a huge issue, and now a new theater is trying to be born from the ashes of it. And it's like, okay, but it's wild how each new place has their own story and what happened and how each city supports it, So Philly Improv Theater, clearly there was enough of a like pull in the area to be like, we need a whole theater dedicated to improv. Are there tons and tons of people there? Is it packed? Is it like there's wait lists to get into classes? Or is it like there is a solid 100 or so, or however many, and like those are pretty much the improvisers of the city?
It's like, it's not as big that classes will sell out within minutes, but a lot of them will sell out. But there are enough classes. It's not a huge place. It's a pretty small place, but it has a lot of people within it.
Yeah.
And they sell out a lot, and as far as like shows, and they have big people come and everything, and but it doesn't. I feel like they existed before they had the building, and then I think it's like, or like they were like sort of coming together, you know, before that, and the building, they've had that I think for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like just starting to become big, like, because it's involving a lot of like, it's connecting quickly with other people. Like, I don't know whether that's like Greg, the owner, like his, like how connected he is with other groups or whatever, but like, it is still like, it's recognized a lot, like, you know, like the kind of improv places you could take a class, but it won't count somewhere else kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the places where it would at least be considered as counting or something, you know? Like, but, I mean, they just started like a diversity program a couple years ago, and that's how I started there, is I was able to go because I got a diversity scholarship, so I got to take classes for free. So, yeah.
How do you feel about that? We've talked about that a lot, and we always feel weird about it.
It's a growing, they just hired a new diversity coordinator. The last one, it wasn't anything bad, he just moved, to LA, I think.
Sure.
And,
that's where they go.
So I think he's trying to like steer it, and he's got a vision for it, and it's a thing it's just something that is too complicated to have a firm opinion on, because it's different in so many places.
Yeah, right on. I hear you. Yeah. Austin is a very white place, right? And and so like, even though there's 5 improv theaters, like most of them are 90% white guys. You know what I mean? And so it's hard, and everyone's trying to figure out how to appeal to more, because there's people in the city, you know, of different races and different, you know, all sorts of different, but it's like, hey, would you like to do some improv? And it's just not that exciting. So we're trying to figure that out. How did you hear about it to start the classes? Like, were you interested in improv and then you just happened to see the scholarship and that helped get you in the door? Or were you somebody like, hey, there's a scholarship for an acting class, and then you realized it was improv? Like, was it chicken or the egg? Like, was it improv you were looking for, or were you just looking to get involved and improv happened to be the thing?
I definitely was looking to get into improv. I actually had joined a group here when after I moved here, like, I didn't find anything for a few years. Like, I made friends and stuff in like neighboring towns where I worked, at cafes and all that stuff, but like, it was a good music scene and stuff, but it was hard to find like a comedy that wasn't like it was, I don't know, like a sort of all-encompassing comedy kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till like 3 years into living there that I found out about this improv place, or this improv troupe that was auditioning, a short form improv troupe. And I auditioned for it, and I got in, even though I had literally never done improv. All I had done is everything I had done in New York, which was just nonsense.
Sure, but a good beginning.
So I joined that, and I was with them for like 3 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but that ended.